Hello, everybody. This is Gacha Ghost here on my first episode of my podcast. Don't know what I'm calling it yet. You'll see it in the title. I'll probably think of something tonight. But I'm here with my good friend. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, what you do, what you like. Just give yourself the whole promotional package thing.
Wow, that's super official. My name is John, or Johndrawing, on most social media platforms. I am an illustration student / illustrator, and I guess typically you could find me on Instagram at Johndrawing, or if you want to see something a little bit more formal, you could look at my website, which is johndrawing.com. And I recently started up a YouTube channel, and that also is Johndrawing. So any one of those three, you'll be able to see my weird creations. So check it out if you have a moment.
Cool. That's well, I'll make sure to link everything for you, obviously.
Thanks, man.
And then the next thing is, obviously, I want to know, what kind of art do you do? I'm gonna put some up on screen, but what kind of art do you do? And then where are you from, and where did you get inspired to start doing art, that kind of thing? What are your roots?
Yeah, okay. So as far as the kind of art that I do, I'm particularly taken with doing watercolor work with ink cross-hatching, kind of a little bit like Maurice Sendak, except showing a little bit more form with the cross-hatching as opposed to just pure texture. And I've also been experimenting a lot with colored pencil, basically a lot of traditional media, a lot of traditional water media.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my stuff that I do, it's a little bit inspired by, kind of a weird amalgamation of anime and comic book style, and stuff that's a little bit on the creepier side, but also on the cute side as well. And that's kind of stuff I've been doing ever since I was a kid. I think I started wanting to draw when I was 5, because there was this kid who could just draw Ghostbusters super well in my class, and I was like, that is so dope. So I just, I jumped on the bandwagon and, started drawing Ghostbusters with him, and it was just, the path was set there.
Cool. So since a young age you've been drawing. I feel like that's a lot of, I'll speak for myself. I've been drawing since I was in kindergarten. So for a different episode, but I used to draw a comic in elementary school called Squirrel Man and Ferret Boy or something like that, and it was just some super thing. It was really stupid.
No, dude, those are the best. I wish I could see some of those old ones that I did.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure that I'd be mortified to show other people, but
the cringe.
Yeah, for sure. But it's cool to look back on some of the ideas. I did find some stuff the other day, and it was so clearly I had just played a game of Super Mario, and I wanted to create something, essentially, which was a carbon copy of that.
Mm-hmm.
But stuff like that's great.
It's really weird seeing how you grow and stuff like that. But but since then you're going to school right now, right?
Yeah, at the Academy of Art in San Francisco, the school that you and I went to, for those who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
In the illustration department.
What is your, this is a question I was going to ask later, but I'll just ask it now since it came up, is, what is your experience with art school? And because I have a lot of really strong opinions on art school, but I want to hear other people, since I know a lot of people who have been to art school, obviously, because we both went to school there.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on should people go? How has it helped you? What are the benefits from going to art school as opposed to learning on your own and trying to just figure things out?
Well, let's see. It's kind of hard to answer, with complete confidence due to the fact that I'm still in art school, so I don't have that real-world industry experience yet. But I will say, in my personal experience, I think that my skills are far better than I would be if I was studying on my own. Mainly because with art school, there's a few benefits, most of them being you're kind of forced to critique, your peers and get critiqued, and, forced to have consistent deadlines, and also especially with our school, they place a heavy emphasis on like the fundamentals and the foundations and all that, and that stuff. I'd like to believe that I would have pursued trying to gain some sort of knowledge in that, like outside of art school, but I could see like me not putting as much effort towards that if there wasn't a grade motivating me. I know that there's like some people that just like swear off art school. They're like, I think that it's way too much money for sure,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because I'm putting that information out of my brain, like while I'm in school. But I don't necessarily buy into the idea that it's just this completely like this completely evil thing that has no benefits, when in fact you could do everything by yourself. I think that there are people that definitely could do everything by themselves, but I could see for people like me where that structure is very helpful, and it also gave me a place to connect with people who could introduce me to techniques and stuff like that I don't think I would have necessarily looked up on my own. So yeah, that was sort of a long-winded response.
I feel like that's what a lot of people say about art school. Is it's like, even though it's expensive, and if you haven't heard of this, I was talking to one of our instructors the other day, and he was telling me about this place up in Seattle that's like 2 times as expensive as Academy of Arts.
Yeah, our school was on the cheaper side, I think.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
He was talking about this place called DigiPen, and not only do you have to pay like double what we're paying, but you also have to apply to get in there, so you can't even get in there just like right off the bat.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been kind of a pro and con for our school, like with the whole, open enrollment type thing, because especially in the beginning classes, you kind of get people that are a little bit less serious. But also, that doesn't mean that like, you can't gain those skills later on. Like, I feel like there's people that I know that started out in our school that necessarily, like, if they had showed that portfolio to, like, RISD or something like that, I don't think they would have gotten in, but they ended up being, like, some of the best in our school by the end. So, yeah, it's sort of a mixed bag.
I think that's a testament, because I know you're from illustration, I'm from the game design department. I saw so many people in my lower level classes when I was just starting at the school that I didn't see at the end, obviously, for obvious reasons, that I was like, you're not here for the right reason, and I do not know how you're spending that much to be here. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's I recently got into MMA, and there's this guy in MMA, I can't remember his name right now. I'll put it on the screen right now because I'll remember when I get home. His nickname's the Last Emperor. But his big thing was, they talked about him in an interview, and he was the same way, where he wasn't naturally talented, as some people say, or he didn't have the skills in fighting that most people did. But because of that, he became way better than everybody else, just because he had to work twice as hard to catch up to the people that had natural talent.
Yeah. Something about like, forcing yourself to like improve like through sheer force of will has other added benefits to it aside from just gaining those skills. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's kind of a common school of thought.
For sure. Let's see what I got next on my list. What got you into the kind of art that you did or do? And where do you want to, like, what kind of stuff are you interested in looking at in the future, like new techniques or like maybe a new medium or stuff like that? Do you have any of that kind of stuff? Let's start with just the what got you into doing the watercolor mixed with ink type stuff.
Well, initially I was terrified of painting. Like, color, anything involving color, I just kind of ran for the hills when it came to it. But then once I got into like my mid-level illustration courses, I kind of knew that I'd eventually have to confront color, and I started watercolor, and I just kind of knew right away, like, oh, this is a lot more fun, because there's a lot of ways. Since I come from more of a drawing background, you can implement drawing with watercolor in a way that's very unique to it. Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of where I I stumbled across artists like Maurice Sendak, or yeah, so artists like Maurice Sendak, who combine ink and watercolor. And since I already love to draw in ink and utilize cross-hatching techniques and stuff like that, it seemed like a really cool opportunity to incorporate drawing skills into a world with color work. So yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun to use watercolor.
What's the like? Because I've noticed in your artwork that you draw a lot of stuff that's not necessarily it's not anatomically correct. It's very like over the top, push proportions and stuff like that. What got you into doing more of like the? Because it seems like a lot of your smaller characters are like chibi style, where they have like a little tiny body and a big head, and then when you do regular sized things, they're still like. Their arms will be like way down to their feet and stuff like that. So what got you into like pushing proportions to different?
At first, because of the school that we went to, I really fought that, just because they want us to be like, 7.5 heads tall for a figure.
Super proficient. And I think the way my first anatomy teacher described it was like, because I draw a lot of push proportion stuff as well. I think the way my anatomy teacher described it was, he's like, you have to be good at drawing like the correct way before you can distort it to the way you want it to look or whatever.
Yeah, and that's something I still believe to be valid. But I mean, you and I both know that it's no secret that I love like Ichiro Oda, and all those guys, and I think that one thing that really works about his designs, like love him or hate him, is the expressiveness and just how he's willing to just like, give a dude a set of arms that look like they're tree trunks and, and tiny little legs and, just make silhouettes of the characters really memorable. And, so that's something I kind of wanted to push a little bit more towards. Yeah. Plus, being influenced by anime and comic books, it's eventually I just had to embrace that part of myself that just wanted to go really crazy with characters and really push characteristics.
Your characters seem it's like you said, they have a lot of character. They're very, I feel like even though you're not doing animation, you're doing regular illustration stuff, they have a lot of motion and like emotion and like the ways they're like turned and stuff like that. Like you can see them actually moving kind of.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
So is there any like mediums or anything that you're interested in getting into, or like trying out, like maybe, I don't know, markers or something, or have you looked at stuff at the art? Because I walk into art stores sometimes and I'll just pick up like I'll see a pen or something and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'll pick that up and see what that'll work on.
Yeah, I definitely want to play with gouache more for sure. Mainly because with watercolor, it's very easy to go darker. And so what I'll do a lot of the time is I'll use gouache to kind of color correct a little bit to kind of make things a little bit lighter. Mm-hmm. But I think it would be interesting to kind of see what I can do just purely with gouache, or and as well as digital. For it's a huge part of our market, and yeah, I definitely feel like I want to spend a little bit more time learning how to digital paint and stuff like that.
Digital is very interesting. I need to get more into Illustrator, because if I could make a suggestion, I would learn Illustrator before Photoshop, if only because you get a lot cleaner stuff in Illustrator. Photoshop's better for games, or if you're just going to keep the thing digital, but if you're going to print it or something like that, Illustrator's way better, because Photoshop is pixel based. So you'll always kind of have, even unless you pull stuff out really far, like magnification wise, everything will always kind of have a little edge to it. Whereas Illustrator is vector based, so it'll always have a smooth thing unless you purposely draw it to have like angles.
Yeah, I know that like when I was taking the vector classes, like about a year ago, the teacher was like, yeah, we essentially teach you guys this stuff so that way you'll be marketable, like, mm-hmm. once you get out of school. Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can apply that stuff to the real world.
Yeah. So I think the next thing I'm going to ask you is what inspires you. Like, I know you've already talked about some artists, but I mean, you can go into talk to me about, movies or shows or games that you watch. Like, what drives you to draw new stuff?
Let's see. I think that it's kind of hard to say, like, in terms of like different media that gets me drawing. Sometimes it's not even really media that gets me drawing. It'll be like it'll be stuff that I see like when I'm out, or pictures on the internet of like like weird architecture, or if San Francisco's a really good place to live, like to be around, because you can see people dressed in all kinds of interesting ways, that you would not have anticipated that a human can do to their body. And that really kind of gets the creative juices flowing. And I've always been drawn to kind of creepier stuff and cuter stuff. And I think it's fun to kind of push and pull with that, like sometimes make stuff a little bit more creepy and sometimes make it a little bit more cute. I don't really like to live like purely in one world in terms of what I illustrate, just because I'm trying to think of a way to say this without sounding too pretentious, but like humans are pretty morally gray, so like I think it's a lot of fun to like have like my weird characters kind of reflect that in a way where like they share characteristics of things that are cute and creepy at the same time. That way they're not too far in one direction.
I can understand. Cool. So you obviously have a pretty decent following on Instagram, I'd say. What would you say to artists that maybe look up to you and are inspired by you?
Let's see. I would say that, this isn't meant to sound condescending, but it's more like, hey man, like I'm just like everybody else, just kind of trying to figure it out, I don't really think that if there's a secret in regards to, gaining followers and stuff like that, I'd like to know it. That'd be cool. It'd probably be good for business, but, I just try and be consistent, draw the stuff that I like, but also not be afraid to know what people want to see, and decide, if that's what you want to do, also, what I like to do with my followers, is try and just like get to know them a little bit, like through my live streams and stuff like that. I've been super fortunate because a lot of the people that follow my account, they're very cool and they're very supportive, and I'm sure a lot of that is luck, but I think that one thing that's kind of helped is like kind of getting to know them a little bit and developing a rapport.
What's the for an art like standpoint? Because I know I've gotten a couple people when I do giveaways or whatever. I've gotten a couple people from you helping share me or whatever, and they always talk about stuff like that. What kind of stuff would you say to like help them out from like if they're like a younger artist or whatever? Like what helped you to keep getting better and stuff like that?
In terms of like developing art skills?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I think really it's kind of like anything else. Like I hate to be like that guy, but it really just comes down to practice a lot of the time. Like you just gotta like keep going at it. You gotta be consistent about it. Set goals for yourself. Like that's one thing that's helped me a lot, is just like, okay, I'm gonna draw like every day. Even if it's just 30 minutes. Just build up. Don't be afraid to do stuff that makes you uncomfortable art-wise. Yeah.
Is there anything on like style? Because obviously I feel like personally you have a very unique style. Like I can tell if somebody put obviously a bunch of different art in front of me, I could pick out which one is yours pretty much immediately. And I know a lot of people have trouble developing a style that's their own. Even me, I feel like a lot of my art right now is kind of it's kind of more fan arty than actual my style. I have a couple things that are mine, but my question is, how is it that you like came about to your style where you feel like now you have your distinct look? Like what would help younger people out in finding out that kind of thing?
Let's see. My friend David Jones, he had said, and I thought that this was pretty cool. Everybody should follow that dude, by the way. It's like criminal how little followers he has.
What's his name?
David Jones.
Okay.
At David Jones, or at my David Jones. Can I give you a link for that later, and then you could?
Yeah, I'll post it up on the screen.
Yeah, because he deserves a lot more. But he said something once, and he kind of meant it in kind of a tongue-in-cheek way, but I thought it was pretty spot on. Where he's like, nah, dude, like, it's finding your style is a lot like falling in love. Like, you know, like you gotta let it like find you. You know, like you can't force it. You know, and you know, essentially what I extrapolated from that was more like, you know, like just draw, you know, just keep drawing, and then you'll notice the kind of lines you keep going back to and the kind of design decisions that you make. Like, I noticed that I tend to do like a lot of very shape-based lines, you know, so that's something I noticed I kept incorporating into my works. The way I would push certain proportions, you know, when I would draw from like my imagination, and you know, the way when I would take a character from another franchise and how I would like elongate its torso or something like that, you know, just that stuff kind of slowly you build up like a visual vocabulary in your brain. Yeah, and I think it's a little bit dangerous to like have like a okay, I'm gonna plug this character into like a machine and then it's gonna come out and it's gonna be my style this way. Yeah, because I used to like really want a style super badly, but then I kind of realized like I didn't also want to pigeonhole too much, but I also wanted to be recognizable to a certain extent. So it's kind of like a delicate balance, I think. I would say, especially in the beginning, don't necessarily limit yourself. Just be super hungry for knowledge, you know, like artistically, you know. Yeah, because style and stuff like that, you know, I feel like that stuff kind of comes later. But, you know, again, I don't want to be that guy, but, you know, like foundations are a great place to start. And eventually you'll be like, wow, I tend to, you know, work a lot in values more, or I tend to work a lot in line more. And yeah, and then that stuff, you know, that stuff becomes more of like a second nature.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I totally agree with you. I understand some people don't want to like hear it or whatever, but it's, I think, an important thing for a lot of artists to understand. It's like you said at Academy, is we get critiqued a lot, and I feel like at least in my department we had a few people drop out because they couldn't take critique. And if you're trying to, I'll say this much: if you want to do art as like a hobby, right, it's okay to not want to take critique at that point, because I feel like obviously you're not trying to, you know, make money off of it or be professional, but I feel like at the point that you are going to school for it and or you're trying to make it a job in some way, you have to be able to take critique, because at the end of the day, if you're getting paid to do something, it's not
for you, it's for
not
them.
For, exactly. So, and even then, it's like everybody can be better, right? So if they're giving you a critique, as long as it's not something that, because art is super subjective, but if it's something objective, like if you were trying to draw something super realistic and one of your proportions are off or something like that, I feel like, why wouldn't you take that? You know, and most people aren't trying to be offensive or have you take it personally. It's just, they're just giving you the truth to hope that you get better, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's another important thing that a lot of people overlook. I bring that up because you keep saying you don't want to be that guy, but I feel like people have to have that kind of person to get better. You're not going to get better if everybody just tells you your stuff is good all the time.
Oh, for sure. And like, especially in the beginning, I was like, man, I want to draw like a comic book style. Like, I don't really want to render out this super detailed, super realistic looking thing. And it's not that nowadays I'm drawing like these master copies every day of like, you know, like of like super anatomically correct, detailed nude models or anything like that. But I can't pretend that knowledge doesn't enhance what I do now.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I definitely don't regret investing those hours in trying to, and I still could use more of it, you know. I think we all could, you know, just keep on going with that, you know.
there's always bigger fish in the pond, as they say, I suppose.
Oh, for sure.
So someone should, even someone who's been doing it for 50 years, I'm sure, if they got a critique from somebody, it's like, yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Yeah.
I would take it anyways, personally. So the next thing, we've already talked about I feel like we've talked about your preference in medium, traditional or digital stuff. It seems like you have a more traditional style, even though you kind of want to get into the digital. So I'll just move on to my next thing is, this is more on the personal side. What kind of like games and movies and stuff have you been watching and stuff like that lately?
Yeah, okay, so let's see. I just finished, I was telling you, off mic that I just finished Nier Automata.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pretty crazy game.
That's the one with the android, like it's a JRPG with like androids or something like that, right?
Yeah, but let's see, it kind of goes off the rails. Like, it kind of starts out a certain way, and I didn't really expect it to kind of really address some of the stuff that it was trying to say. And then I kind of researched it a little bit more, and it turns out the director, he's a very interesting dude, because his games are known for being super out there and almost experimental.
Who is the director?
Yoko Taro.
Okay.
He's kind of, I don't know if it was last E3, but he's the guy that came out with like kind of a circular mask, with like a moon face skull type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of similar to like a Majora's Mask type character.
Okay.
Yeah, he's that dude. So, he's kind of known for having like really out there ideas,
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty cool to see what all that was about. Yeah, Breath of the Wild,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Beautiful. The art style on that was like awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I don't even know what I can even say about that. I mean, everybody's been talking about that game forever.
Even the food, I've seen the food, like the icons for the food in that game, and I'm like, oh my god, they look so like juicy and stuff like that.
Yeah. Me and my girlfriend would play it, and we just hang out and just have Link cook, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great game, and I'm not really an open world guy, so I thought, when I heard it was like an open world Zelda, I was like, oh, come on, man. Because I was kind of hoping for something a little bit more like Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time, which had open world elements to it, but it wasn't like a super big sandbox where like you're just kind of dropped into the game and you have to figure it out.
It was still linear enough where you kind of had direction, right?
Yeah, and Breath of the Wild, there are some linear elements to it, but it really is like you kind of make your own adventure to a certain extent, and that appealed to me.
It's I think I heard something about Breath of the Wild. I remember one of my instructors telling me, who I'll hopefully have on the podcast at some point, Jason Wiesner. I think he was telling me that Breath of the Wild was inspired by the original Zelda. And they were like, this is what we wanted to do with the original Zelda, but the technology wasn't there at the time, or something like that.
Yeah, I think I was reading an interview, and they were saying something about like the first scene when Link like walks out of the cave, and it just kind of like pans across like the horizon. Like, it's almost a 1-to-1 of like some of the old 80s like Zelda art. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know if that's completely correct, but
I mean, if that's what you saw in it, that's fine either way.
Yeah, it definitely captured that kind of, it's like reading the like the backstory guidebook, and those like, how like those games were like so like the graphics were so limited that they would have these like really like beautiful art pieces with like backstory and the instruction manual.
Yeah.
It's like reading that and it coming to life in a game.
I miss that stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess now they can just do it in game, right? So.
Yeah. But there is something to that, like that limited graphic style where it kind of forces your imagination a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's why like a lot of the Pokemon games were like super, like held up super well despite being like 2D, sprite based games.
Yeah, I would say maybe the second gen or the third gen was when the sprites got really good. If you look at the first gen, like it's very hit or miss. There's some sprites that are like awesome, and then there's some sprites where you're like, what the hell were they doing?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I was looking because they released the red and blue and yellow on the Virtual Console for 3DS, and I was looking at some of that sprite work, and it's like, wow, this is this nostalgia really did, taint some of the memories of, like especially like Golbat and some of those guys. It's like,
oh my god, Golbat.
he's got that tongue sticking out, and which is pretty awesome, but pretty horrifying for a kid.
Yeah, there's some of the I can't remember which one. I've watched a Let's Play of I think Red pretty recently, and some of the I can't remember which specific Pokemon, but there's some Pokemon in that game that they're just like, it's not always the sprites that you can see like in front of you. It's the sprites that are like have their back towards you.
Yeah. They
had one
really
of
weird.
What was it of?
Was it like
Bulbasaur or Venusaur, and it just looks like shit, dude. Like it's bad.
Venusaur, it looks like a weird like pixel salad. Just kind of up there.
And you're just like, what is going on
here?
Yeah. And then you move to the Game Boy Advance games, and you're like, okay, yeah, now you could totally see everything.
Yeah, like, oh, that's a plant.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, whereas before it looked like somebody took like the MS Paint spray brush tool from like Windows XP and just kind of like went to town,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have any movies you've seen recently or anything like that too that maybe inspired you a little bit?
Yeah, let's see. I just watched Porco Rosso from
nice.
Miyazaki. That was pretty great. Also, I've been kind of catching up on stuff because I haven't really seen a lot of movies from the past few years. So I saw, what was it? The Mad Max movie.
Okay, Fury Road?
Yeah, Fury Road. And I thought that was pretty great. Yeah, just kind of the gritty. I'm a sucker for the edgy, the inner edgelord 15-year-old loves that stuff. So
same.
Yeah. So
it's weird how because I haven't seen that movie myself, but I've seen the art and stuff for it, and I've seen like clips, and I feel like it's really weird how edgy it's supposed to be, and how a desert you feel like is supposed to be super desaturated and bland, but they make that movie super like saturated, and all the art for the movie is like super bright and saturated, like oranges and like blues and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I agree that like the obvious thing that they could have done is made it like this just this really like grayed out hard to look at thing, but they did a pretty good job keeping it visually interesting. I also just watched last season for anime was Made in Abyss.
Okay.
And that was pretty great because it kind of, like I said, combining creepy and cute things, Although that show goes a step further by putting these cute characters in like really, really violent and awful situations.
What's it called?
Made in Abyss.
Okay, I might have to check into that one.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And they announced a season 2, so I'm pretty stoked.
Have you seen that new one that everybody's talking about? It's a Netflix like original anime. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, the Devilman one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna start that one up pretty soon.
Okay.
It's sort of hard because I like to watch stuff while I'm working.
Yeah.
And since I usually watch stuff subbed, not that I'm completely anti-dub, but typically I'll watch stuff subbed when it comes to anime. So
I agree. That's always been the hardest. That's why I haven't watched anime for like 2 years, is because I feel like every time I want to watch anime, I want to watch it subbed. But since I don't speak Japanese, if I'm working while I'm watching it, I'll miss like a whole bunch of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And especially anime is so visual. Like, not that TV or movies aren't, obviously, but it just sort of feels like you're kind of missing out if you're not looking at like all the frames that were drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I was gonna say, I think I had a suggestion for you. Oh, if you liked Mad Max Fury Road, do you have Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. They might still have it on there, but I'm not sure. One of my favorites is Turbo Kid.
Turbo Kid. Okay.
You should. I think you'd like that one. It's like a wasteland, and it's very inspired by like 80s and stuff like that. So.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and it's super gory.
So it's like post-apocalypse type stuff. Okay. Yeah, for sure.
So I would look that one up. I just bought the special edition on DVD. So.
Is it like a recent film?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the director's first movie, I think, and then it got a bunch of Sundance Film Awards. And he's making a new one right now, like a horror movie called, I think it's like Summer of '89 or something like that.
That's pretty cool. So if I like it, then I could like jump on the bandwagon and be like, man, I knew that guy during his first film, and get all this mad street cred surrounding it. Yeah, so
it's gotten a very decent underground like cult classic kind of following. So
that's pretty cool.
That's just my suggestion to you. It's I love it. So. And I also wanted to talk about since we were talking about Breath of the Wild and like the pamphlets and stuff like that. Like, I think that's why people started buying vinyl again, is because you get a big like, you don't just get the vinyl and like the music, because even on a CD you just get a little thing like this big. Vinyl, you get like a whole big poster and like art and stuff like that with it. So
yeah, it's a very visual thing. You know, it's sort of why I think stuff like traditional children's books won't necessarily go away, because like I don't really think that like parents are gonna like put their kids to bed and like read an ebook to them. Like I mean, I could be wrong about that, but my mind's eye kind of has a hard time picturing that, you know, or like swiping an iPad in front of their kid that's trying to sleep. With that blue glow and all that.
Yes.
So, you know, I think that some of those physical media things, while I think that they're kind of like sort of like dying down a little bit in terms of like relevance, like I don't picture them evaporating, you know, and I think that vinyl's kind of the same thing.
I've been trying to, speaking on the children's book things, that's why I've been trying to like read more comics before I go to bed instead of watch YouTube videos, because I'll just stay up for like,
oh dude,
forever.
I'm the worst when it comes to that. Yeah, that's, you know, because it's so easy to just, you know, flip on a video instead of like, you know, like
opening up a book and like,
yeah.
So it's I agree with you. I think that the physical media won't go. Plus, there's like something super different about like holding it in your hands, right? Like even with like art prints or whatever, because people could literally just look at the art online or like see it on your Instagram or something like that, but actually holding it in your hands and feeling like the paper and stuff like that, it's super different.
And you just see stuff that, you know, you don't necessarily see.
Like digitally?
Yeah, like I'll flip through friends' sketchbooks and stuff, and it'll be stuff that I had seen a million times because they had posted it online, but then there's like specific marks and specific ways that they'll have rendered things out that, you know, it just sort of gets lost even with the most like high-res photos or scans. Or specific textures that just don't, you know, translate to digital. So, you know, I think that there is always going to be like a craving for traditional, like physical stuff that you can hold in your hand.
For sure. Okay, let's see what else I got. Can you scroll down for me, please?
Yeah, no problem.
I am not used to Macs.
All right.
Thank you. Let's see here. So I think we're pretty much getting towards the end here. I was just gonna, let's see, what do I have? I'm probably gonna have to edit this out because I'm just stalling for time at this point.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, I know exactly what I was gonna do. Can I use your phone for a minute? Can you go on your Instagram and can I use your phone for a minute?
Yeah, sure. My Instagram page?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right. There you are.
Cool, thank you. Let me pick one at random. Oh yeah, I see how much more you've been going into color from previously, like when you were doing more black and white.
Yeah, especially because Inktober, like in October, you know, I did all 31 days of that, and that just made everything on my page just kind of super colorless. And so I wanted to try and add a little bit more color stuff, even if it was just sketches, to kind of bring a little bit of life back.
For sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick three. They do this on a podcast that I like, so I'm kind of stealing it from them a little bit, where it's they pick three images and they have the person talk about it for a little while.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Let me ask you about this one really quick. So what inspired you to draw this one, and just talk about your process of doing it and stuff like that.
So this one, I wanted to try out using dry brush with a brush pen because I had recently acquired a Pentel pocket brush, and I didn't necessarily use that with watercolor very much. So I wanted to kind of see what it would be like to use kind of a dry brush style and see how much it would affect the colors, like how much it would desaturate the surrounding colors. And it wasn't necessarily thumbnailed out or anything like that. It was more of an exercise or an experiment.
So you just freehanded it all the way?
More or less. Typically, even for sketches, if I'm going to go into watercolor, I'll doodle something out pretty quick. Yeah, for this, I just kind of threw stuff around, like the eyes for the figure, or the human head.
Mm-hmm.
Like those actually were real eyes, but then I totally botched them in the inking, so I decided to use that as an opportunity to kind of go in with brush pen and see what I could create out of that, and it ended up having a completely different mood and vibe than what I had initially planned.
Yeah, it looks. I like this one a lot. It kind of stood out to me because it's so creepy. Okay, so let's see here. I might dig pretty far back here.
Yeah,
as
go
far
for
back
it.
as I can go. Oh, okay. This one's pretty cool. I think I know what inspired you on this one and what you're going to talk about, but I'm going to ask you and let you talk about it. So.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, dude. This is like me wearing my anime fluence right on my sleeve for sure. Yeah, what I wanted to do was do stuff that was anime inspired, but also kind of put my own face on it. I mean that figuratively, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know you had one eye and big teeth and stuff.
Yeah. Oh God, I wish. That'd be sick. But yeah, for this, I think that I wanted to take kind of the cutesy anime girl type thing and kind of flip that over a little bit. What I have a lot of fun doing is I know that there's a huge focus right now in anime for making the girls as cute and as marketable as possible. And in fact, I kind of feel like I made this girl a little bit too cute. I like to take those characters and kind of make them really creepy and add extra arms and extra teeth and stuff like that. Yeah, because I don't know, that feels a little bit more compelling to me rather than kind of having kind of the same face type thing that's very prevalent in moe anime.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just have them look like somebody you would see on the street, but just kind of vary up their body shape or their facial features, instead of it just being kind of like a character with different colored hair. It just kind of looks like they were all created in a character generator.
Gotcha. You didn't want it to be, it's not necessarily that you don't like it, you just see how generic everybody is kind of.
Yeah, and I mean, in their defense, it's probably a lot easier to animate if it's that way. I don't have to do 100 drawings of that character.
Mm-hmm.
But it does it kind of breaks your immersion a little bit to be I think that I just saw that character, but with blue hair.
Mm-hmm. I was gonna say it kind of reminds me of Cardcaptor Sakura or something like that.
Yeah, and that's all stuff that I grew up really into. When I was a 6-year-old boy. Even now, some of that old stuff is pretty cool, Sakura and. There's been a lot of edgy magical girl shows lately, like Madoka, and there was one called Magical Girl Raising Project, which was essentially a bunch of magical girls just kind of slaughtering each other.
I did not know about that one.
Yeah, so
that's exactly right up your alley, right?
Sorta. I mean, it's the kind of thing that you would kind of get made fun of for liking because it's super edgelord, but it's something I've kind of embraced I don't necessarily like gratuitousness, I don't necessarily like gratuitous content just for the sake of it, you know?
Okay.
But, I think that there is something cool about, mixing characters that are meant to be super cute and, like, having them not look super cute in moments, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah, I understand. So here's the last one. Because this one, I picked it because it's completely different from all your other stuff, so.
Yeah, this is sort of more what I meant earlier when I was saying, like, don't be afraid to do stuff that's a little bit different than what you normally do. I tried to see how far I could push it to be a little bit more realistic than usual, because I think around that time, let me see the date on this. Yeah, this was this was almost over a year ago, or it was over a year ago. And I noticed around that time I had been drawing a lot of stylized stuff, and while this is relatively stylized, I wanted to see what I could do with incorporating some of, like, the foundation stuff that I learned into, some of the more exaggerated characters.
Okay. Yeah. Did you have who was, like, the person that you took the reference from, and, like, what's up with the antlers and stuff like that?
I searched up female face on Google, and then I took someone else's hair, and I think, since it's so long ago, it's hard for me to remember, especially since this is kind of more of like a sketch.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure that back then I just didn't want to draw like a pretty girl, so I just kind of wanted to add at least some. I just could not resist putting, like, a little bit of some unusual characteristics in there.
Gotcha. Yeah, because she has, like, the face paint and stuff too.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
Thank
All
you.
right, cool. Yeah. So I think that's our show for tonight. The last thing I want to end on is I just want you to go ahead and say that same thing you said at the beginning again, like who you are, where to find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I hope that wasn't too many ums and uhs and, stuff like that.
No, it's fine. It's just like when your girlfriend called, it's just, that's how artists are. It's really hard it's hard for me to come out of my shell. If I didn't work in retail for, 10 years almost, I probably wouldn't be able to talk either. But because the way I think I said it to her is we like to speak with our art. We don't like to speak with our words necessarily.
Yeah, but either way, it's still fun to talk about stuff like this, which is, why I'll try and segue that into me promoting myself, because yeah, like with YouTube, I tried to kind of use that as a way to practice talking about what I do as well. And that my username for that, Johndrawing, it's you spell it how you say it. And basically on every other social media, I'm just Johndrawing, all one word.
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, I am JD Illustration. I couldn't get Johndrawing for that, and whoever Johndrawing on Twitter is, he's got an enemy for life. So
I know how that is too.
Yeah.
Actually, on Instagram, someone else has Gacha Ghost.
Oh,
already,
really?
But they have just the one whole name. That's why I have the underscore. And they just have, I think they just do Gachapon openings, but they only have one Gachapon opening on their page, and they've been up for like a year or something. And I'm like, can you not be there, please?
It's one of those things you feel like going into social media will never bother you, but then when you discover it, you're like, oh man, like this Johndrawing hasn't uploaded in years, Yeah. I could be him,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then for other stuff, like Instagram, it's Johndrawing. I just did a giveaway there to celebrate hitting a milestone for followers, and I plan to do another one soon. And the only other thing I can think of is my portfolio website, which I think articulates my work a lot better than I do vocally, which is johndrawing.com.
Okay.
And yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being on here. You're the first artist we have on the podcast, so it's awesome to have you on. I'm glad you're the first one.
Thanks, man.
The last thing I have to end with, let's see here, is all my social media will be down in the description. All John's stuff will be, either on the screen or in the description. I'll try and make sure to put all the stuff in the annotations and all that. all my stuff is all Gacha Ghost. We have our second page where I do games and stuff like that. It's right now it's Gacha Games. It might change to Gacha Media. We'll see about that. I also try and live stream at least once a month on Twitch. You could find all my stuff either down in the bottom or on the screen right now. You'll see it.
Yeah, I think I'm subbed to all of it. So
yeah, you'll catch it. And then let's see here. What else do I have? I'll have to shout out to the number one punk of the month. I don't know who you are. You're on screen right now. I'll be picking you later because I'm recording on my phone and I can't look at my Instagram currently. But you'll be on the screen. Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Whoever you are. And then next month or next week, I don't know. I would like the podcast to be a weekly thing, but right now, just with the amount of time I have, I think it's going to be a monthly.
Plus scheduling and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the next person I'm going to try and get on the podcast will either be Levitzo, my good friend from high school, or Ray. He does a lot of music stuff. So.
Oh, awesome.
Just giving a little, preview for the next time I do a podcast. So.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that.
For sure. I can't wait to see how this turns out. So.
Yeah.
And yeah, so good stuff. Roll the outro.